right, guys, it's time for more Metagame Monday. Another week of legacy tournaments have passed, and today we'll be looking at the qualifier that was played on Friday. And the bonus episode over on Metafy will be regarding the challenges, the 5 challenges that we usually see. So if you're into the bonus content, certainly go over there. It's also where I host my tournaments, I write my deck guides, I have my community of I think we're approaching 140 barons. We have daily inspiration, people sharing ideas, sharing their milestones, their achievements, their ideas, and we make each other better. That's kind of the essence of what I'm doing over there. So head over there if that sounds like anything for you. But now let's get into the top 32 of the Legacy Qualifier played on Friday on Magic Online. Note that the scheduling of this event was a bit awkward for especially US players. So, I don't know if we got a slightly different metagame. Who knows? Time will tell. Let's get into it here. The elephant in the room here is the Reanimator deck is still crushing, putting 8 players into the top 32, which is an amazing conversion rate, obviously. It is higher than the deck's play rate in the metagame, so that is an overachievement. It ended up taking the tournament down. I added foil copies for all the top 8 decks, so the top 8 decks were Reanimator, Double Lands, Double Forge, Breakfast, did I mess up? Mono Red, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What was the 8th one? I guess you gotta let me know what the 8th one was, or I'm missing these foils. I don't know. So Reanimator is still crushing here. Time will tell how much longer that deck is going to be legal. Oops All Spells was almost Oops All Gone here, but did end up putting a single copy into the top 32. So still pretty good chunk of graveyard decks here, to say the least. Next column here is the next big one. So I moved the lands and the Blood Moon decks up in the world here. So with the rules change from Urza Saga now, surviving under a Blood Moon, players are now incorporating that card into their mono red prison decks. So this deck is seeing a resurgence. I think that's very, very cool to see. Lands is another Urza Saga deck, so that's partially why it's in the same column. The other reason is that it's a deck that plays recurring wastelands. So here you have to worry about Blood Moon against mono red prison, and against lands you have to worry about recurring wastelands. So that's kind of similar strategy. So that's why I have them in the same column here. Double top 8 for lands here, incredible. And we're going to be looking at that a little bit later as well. 5 copies in the top 32 is incredible. I was really excited to see that because I actually think it's a very, very solid metagame choice when you're planning to beat the graveyard and you're planning to beat tempo decks. Also, the Rise of Blood Moon could be a problem for lands, so there's a little bit of dynamic there that reminds me of the Mono Red Prison versus Eldrazi, where Eldrazi was a great deck, but if people play too many Blood Moons, it wasn't all that great. Next column here is Assorted Combo, double Mystic Forge in the top 8, and that is dangerous because Mystic Forge is another deck that will crush something like Lance. You're very happy to see any non-Force of Will deck. That is once again an Urza Saga deck. Very important to mention that Urza Saga is picking up a lot of steam. Mystic Forge is bad against, Null Rod effects, etc. Those can be kind of hard to justify in your deck when you have to worry about, the graveyard, you have to worry about like non-basic lands, and you have to play your Hydroblast and stuff like that. So Mystic Forge, incredible showing here with double top 8. Single copy of Sneak Attack, single copy of Doomsday, single copy of Omniscience. Oh, I think I found the one. It was a Black Storm, the Saga Storm deck, making the finals actually in this event. So we covered it. The top 8, incredibly diverse. We have 2 lanes, 2 forge, and 4 different decks aside from that. But I wanted to say the Sneak, the Omni, and the Doomsday decks are these decks that will struggle a lot against, tempo strategies, and then they're kind of weird when they're lined up against Reanimator, because Reanimator has, I guess, a faster, execution of their game plan, and they have better disruption. So I don't think that's exactly where you want to be. I think you want to play against some, some lands decks, some Death and Taxes decks, some, stuff like that. Stock Up is still seeing a little bit of play here, but it's basically a show and tell card at this point. This Black Saga Storm deck was pretty cool to see. I always enjoy that. I have some history with this deck as well. Well, 10 years ago, but you know, I do love chaining spells and casting Infernal Tutor for the win. So that was cool to see that you can still get the job done your way in Legacy. Next pile here is basically various creature decks. So we had a grindy, modern-inspired Ketramos deck. Not quite a Death and Taxes deck, but I guess the closest thing to it. Then we had Red Painter here. I put it in this pile alongside Breakfast because it has an A plus B combo, but it can also grind, you know, Fable, Saga, etc. Self-Led Breakfast, sweet deck to have in the metagame. The deck with Urza Saga and Nadu has an incredible plan B, so that's, you know, just a big strength. And when it comes to deck building, you can oftentimes shave on your combo post sideboard and be a bit more mid-rangey. You're not happy to see a deck full of, you know, Thoughtseizes, Pushes, and Orcust Bowmasters, but I think with Orcust Bowmasters taking a little bit of a backseat in the Reanimator decks, that's just good for your, you know, nomads to stick around, and you can expose your illusionists and stuff like that. Then this deck was also a red-blue Wizards in an artifact shell, so you had cool stuff like Core Steel Cutter, the new Astro card as well to help with Metalcraft. You had your Moxen, you had all your good wizards, including Tameo and Emery. And that's basically just a deck saying, I can do a lot of, you know, powerful things, but a lot of cyber cards is going to be live against me. So Bowmaster is good against the deck, Hydro is good, Pyro is good, Null Rod and stuff like that is good. So if Mystic Force is trending, I don't want to be on my Mox Opal deck over here, but if we're dodging Null Rod, I really like the choice. All the way down here, we have the actual tempo pile. So, of course, it's a matter of definition. Some people think that this Reanimator deck is a tempo deck. Some people think it's not a tempo deck. It doesn't really matter. My definition is that these are tempo decks, kind of days decks. We have the black version, Goyfs, Nether Goyfs, Baragoyfs, Bowmasters, Thoughtseize, Push. We all know what black can offer. And then the red version, slightly faster, slightly more, I guess, versatile against removal. Can punish some combo decks a little bit faster. Has access to Pyroblasts, Price of Progress, which looks to be a very good tool right now. So there is a deck. I love it. I played it. So that'll be like a week ago. I won the challenge. It was awesome. Like the version a lot, but I don't think you're in a good shape against the black, you know, pseudo mirror. So it has a lot to do with the what kind of stock you expect out of the blue-black days decks. Last pile here is kind of controlling. So we had a cool Grixis deck here, playing, you know, a little bit of more of a grindy game, Flame of Anor, Kaito, stuff like that. So you kind of use your small wizards as both Kaito outlets and Flame of Anor enablers. Pretty cool idea. And then we had a fan favorite, Jeskai deck here with 4 Narsets, you know, the Days Undoing, a little bit of Teferi, lots of Plows, you know, that kind of inevitability deck that if you don't get run over, you're going to be very competitive into the mid and late game because of your card quality. But then again, we also get a lot of our 3 drops dazed, or we're in trouble in the meantime because we're getting, you know, sneaked or forged on or whatever the case may be. Good thing is this deck has a very good mana base, which is awesome against lands and Monarch Prison. So yeah, heads off to that player for sure. So all in all, Reanimator, the deck to beat with a ton of other decks. Like, this was incredible to see when it comes to deck diversity, players winning their own way. And yeah, that's what we want to see here on Metagame Monday. So now let's get into Deck of the Week. Deck of the Week here is, for me, going to be Lance. Lance with 5 copies in the top 32 of the qualifier. Let's have a look at why Lance is doing well. Why is this a good metagame choice? So, first of all, hats off to Sprouts for kind of popularizing the fast version here with 4 Once Upon a Time, 4 Malevolent Rumble. This means you'll be putting together your combo more often. If you notice here, 4 Dark Depths, 4 Thespian Stage, that's kind of the backbone of the deck. But historically, sometimes we're down to like 2 Dark Depths, and it's just, I just really love that this deck is just so focused on doing its own thing while still having access to tons of toolbox. So let's just have a look at the toolbox here. So we are playing a crop rotation deck. We can Yoga Tabernacle against an army of whatever tokens. We have Sajiri Step for protection to winning through removal spell. We have Otawara as some kind of catch-all that I guess we have to natural draw in order to, or I guess expedition map it. Okay, so I guess it's just a very versatile card. Single copy of Maze of Ith. You never know if there's a big Murktide you need to stop. If the opponent fetches basics, we have access to Ghost Quarter. We have Disenchant on our Forest. Pretty nice for a mono green deck. Bajuka Bog, so we can wipe the graveyard. Very convenient these days. So now we get into the Saga package here. So we're playing main deck Cage, which is just a nod to Oops and Reanimator being good choices right now. Needle stops Planeswalker, stops Wasteland in a pinch if you're trying to build a 2020. Stops a One Ring. We have Boots here to race with our Saga tokens. And then we have kind of Saga into map, which can go get, you know, build your own crop rotation kind of situation. You want a second Saga? Do you need a Wasteland? Do you need a Maze of Ith? Whatever the case may be. So the combination of having a great proactive game plan and then having tons of tools to handle the format, I think that's what pushes this deck into, Tier 1 territory. This deck used to be just a fan favorite deck, you know, chosen handful of players would run it, but now it's actually trying to level up from being an expert deck to just being a solid metagame choice, so don't sleep on lands. As I talked about, lots of consistency cards here. Loam as well. A couple of flutes here. Flutes will sometimes name opposing wastelands, sometimes name opposing combo pieces. I think this card is kind of a smooth way to have game against bad matchups and threat cards like wastelands. So yeah, I love to see those. What are we trying to deal with here in the sideboard? Creature removal, some uncounterable against Reanimator. We have Sniper here. I guess that card kills Magus of the Moon in a pinch. Force of Vigors, you know, going to be live against Mystic Forge, Blood Moon, etc. Single copy of Endurance. Karakas in the sideboard, which is kind of interesting, but I think I like it. Karakas is a card that will, you know, bounce Tamios mainly. I think if you're mounting Atraxa, I mean, you can try, but you're usually in great trouble. Single copy of Ancient Tomb, I guess there's some hands where you need Disruptor Flute, and then it kind of, alongside crop rotation, enables that you have turn 1 Disruptor Flute and where turn 2 might be too late. So I think that's just solid deck building here. Second Needle, and then more flutes here to go up to 4 flutes. So this deck is leaning heavily on Disruptor Flute to handle, you know, tough matchups like Show and Tell, like Doomsday, like Nomads and Core, you know, those kind of problematic cards that can kind of trump what this deck is doing. So yeah, big shout out to Lance doing awesomely in the qualifier. So yeah, that brings us to the end of the episode. As I mentioned, if you also want to see my breakdown of the 5 challengers that saw play the last week, head over to the Metafy, become a Brainstorm Baron, and I promise you it's going to be worth it. It's certainly something that is helping a lot of players level up, reach their goals, and look for higher peaks. So yeah, with that being said, I hope to see you over there. If not, I'll see you back next time on the channel for more sweet Legacy action. Thanks so much for watching.